Hey everyone, I'm just going to respond to a question asked by Bryantulsa, channel down below. And he asks, is ridicule the product of reason? And my answer to that would be kind of it's multi-part. In the first instance, in a purely formal kind of sense, let's say you have a computer that checks a formal argument and just tells you whether it's wrong or right. So it does some kind of a reasoning to get to that conclusion. Then it's going to take the argument, it's going to tell you whether it's wrong or right and what the faults are. Ridicule doesn't enter into it. So as a formal part of the reasoning process, I don't think that ridicule is a product of reason. The product of reason is hopefully an approximation of truth according to what you know of the world. The second is kind of on a psychological level. I think ridicule can be the product of the human reasoning process. So depending on our personality, how highly we think of ourselves, when we hear someone make an argument, and we think that the argument is based on fallacious grounds, then it may very well be that our own reasoning process first tells us the argument is wrong, and secondly, a side effect of that is to make us want to ridicule the person. So it's not really directly an outcome of reason or reasoning itself, but it is an outcome of kind of the human reasoning process as it works in the human mind, based on, I guess, evolution. And the third is ridicule as a strategy. Can ridicule be the outcome of a reasoning process where we say, well, we're going to ridicule something? And I think it can be if all you're interested in is winning an argument, and you understand that ridicule is the best, most effective way to win that argument, which it may well be, because sometimes people are kind of immune to facts, but they're less likely in some instances to be immune to ridicule, because ridicule works on a more emotional level, and especially if you get other people to join in, they'll just feel bad and they might give up their argument. So in that case, if you're just interested in winning the argument, then ridicule may be the reasonable choice. Hence, ridicule would be the product of reason in that case. But of course, that would be a narrow kind of reasoning. And then if you looked at the surrounding factors, if you looked at what you might be doing in setting a precedent that ridicule and this kind of emotional attack is acceptable, I think that then is in fact a danger to the discourse in general. And I think generally that's what I would say about the connection of reason and ridicule. Reason is reason. It's this kind of very formal, very dispassionate thing, whereas ridicule is laden with emotion. There's no real way to get from reason to ridicule except as a strategy, I think. So in that sense, reason and ridicule are kind of divorced, in my eyes at least. And the follow-on question you ask is when and to what extent is ridicule the product of reason? And going back to my last scenario, well, ridicule could be the product of reasoning if you're reasoning about the best way to convince someone and you really want to convince them, and you understand that they are very firm in their position, and they're kind of very interested in maintaining that position because it makes them feel good or something like that. So they're going to eliminate your arguments to them because they're just cognitive dissonance. In that case, a reasonable, at least when you're just looking at that case, approach may be a method of ridicule, to emotionally barrage them into giving up their belief. But as I said, I don't necessarily think personally that it's really a strategy that generally pays off in the long run. It's not a strategy that I think is really very appropriate in most cases. Anyways, that's me.